You know, this season has been one of the more strange things in the NBA. I mean, you have teams like the Sacramento Kings who are winning games. Yes, they are 16 and 14. They are winning games right now. Sure, they're not in the playoffs, but in the Eastern Conference, that would be a sixth seed right now. You also have teams like the Denver Nuggets. Who would have thought that they'd be 20 and 9? Yeah, I feel like an idiot right now, but we're not going to talk about that. And you have Luka Doncic, who has just been destroying the competition. But I think that we can all agree that one of the biggest surprises, and arguably the biggest surprise so far this season, is the Houston Rockets. And sure, right now they have a winning record of 15 and 14, but they are currently not in the playoffs right now. And sure, James Harden did just drop a 47, 5, and 6 game. There are so many concerns with this roster that I just got to give them the side eye and shake my head, because they definitely could have avoided this going into this season. But let's start from the beginning. Well, last year we all know the Houston Rockets, they had a lead. They were up 3-2 on the Golden State Warriors, and they firmly believe in their heart of hearts that if Chris Paul did not go down in Game 6, they would have won the whole series. Well, I'll tell you this, I understand that whole mentality, because when you're up 3-2, you're one game away from going to the NBA Finals, and trust me, they would have swept the Cavs also. So they definitely think that that injury cost them a championship. Well, let's go to the offseason, because they lose to the Golden State Warriors, and the offseason really is what destroyed this roster. But before we go any further with this video, you guys, make sure you go to my second channel, because I discussed who I think will win the Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and the MVP on that channel. If you're not subscribed to that channel, make sure you go and subscribe. Also subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed, and drop a like under this video and those videos. Just show some support, because I really want that channel's views and that channel's subscribers to go up. So y'all make sure y'all go to Mustard Productions and subscribe. But back to the Rockets offseason. So we start off the offseason with a huge contract dispute with Clint Capella, because Clint Capella wanted that Supermax. The Rockets weren't trying to give it to him. And sure, you also had other teams that were eyeing Clint Capella, because they really just wanted to take the Rockets out of contention. But let's just keep it real here. Clint Capella really deserved some money, and I definitely think that for a young player like him, when you look at all of the money that other players were making, he definitely deserves some big ass contract. And I understand that he's not worth $100 million, but he wanted to get paid, and I can't hate on players for getting that bag. You know what I'm saying? I can't hate on them for wanting that money. But let's just call it a buck here. This was the beginning of the end of the Rockets as we knew it, because for starters, they started off by signing Chris Paul to a huge ass 5-year contract, which was a big mistake. You do not sign Chris Paul to a Supermax. He didn't even shave off $5 to $10 million. I mean, if he really wanted to win, shave off some money so they could pay some other players, because that's what led to Trevor Ariza walking and going to the Phoenix Suns, as well as Luke Mbadamute. Keep in mind that Trevor Ariza, who was a big part of the Rockets' success the year prior with 3-and-D, as he would space the floor and play defense at a really solid level that helped them, and Luke Mbadamute, you couldn't even keep him because he shot well from 3 last season, and he can also play some defense. Now sure, Luke Mbadamute in the playoffs was a little sus, I'll give him that, but you couldn't at least keep one of the two. And then we go on to the biggest cancer in the NBA, Carmelo Anthony. Because look, I get it. You didn't want to pay Ariza $15 million. You didn't want to pay Luke Mbadamute more than what he's worth, especially after what Ariza did in Game 7, as he didn't even make a single shot, and what Luke Mbadamute did throughout the whole playoffs last postseason. But you not only let them walk, but you sign a player who is a complete different player than Trevor Ariza is, because Trevor Ariza can catch and shoot primarily from the corners, but he can still catch and shoot some 3-point shots, and he can play defense. But you sign a player who can't catch and shoot in an offense that you need catch and shooters, and can't play defense. Sure, you still have PJ Tucker who can do that, but you need Trevor Ariza on that perimeter, especially when you're in a conference where you have to defend someone like a Kevin Durant. Sure, you still have PJ Tucker, but Ariza still did a really solid job, and Carmelo Anthony is just not the player that he used to be. He was never a player that could catch and shoot, and if you look at his 3-point percentage, it was never that high, and that's because he takes a lot of dribble step backs and he takes a lot of contested three-point shots. He has never been a player that can catch and shoot, and if you look at his numbers in OKC, even in catch and shoot situations, he still couldn't do that there. So what makes you think that Carmelo Anthony all of a sudden was going to be a catch and shoot player? Sure, he can come off the bench, but even off of the bench, he still cannot be a player that you can rely on to even do what he used to do. Because Carmelo Anthony, even when it comes to backing people down and fadeaways, I still just don't think he's even the player that he can even do that anymore. I just don't think Carmelo Anthony even has a place in the league anymore at this point. Carmelo Anthony, I'm sorry, if you watching this video, you gotta retire and hang up them shoes, because it's at this point where you just gotta let it go. I mean, everyone in this draft class, they're basically leaving the NBA right now. You have Carmelo Anthony, like I said, he's trash. You have Chris Bosh, who's out of the league with blood clots. I love D Wade, my favorite player of all time, but this is his last season and there's a reason for that. And then when you look at Chris Paul, who I know is not in that draft class, but he definitely came in the league around that time with Carmelo. I think he came in around 2005. Y'all correct me in the comment section if I was wrong. Chris Paul has been absolute garbage this season. He has been trash, yes, and I understand you can look at his numbers saying it's not that bad, but when you are 33 years old and you're not willing to take a pay cut off of a super max deal, when you're injury prone, you just came off of a hamstring injury in the playoffs when they needed you the most, you got to be giving me more than 16 points, 8 assists while shooting 41% from the field and below 35% from three. And then when you look at the past 8 games since he came back from his little injury, Chris Paul has been god awful. I mean, we're talking shooting splits that are just horrible. Shooting below 35% from the field and under 30% from three. You got to do better than that. I cannot see Chris Paul go out there and shoot below 40% from the field in 8 consecutive games. That is just unacceptable. He's got to do better than that. And I understand that Chris Paul age has definitely affected him, but why could he not shave off money of the contract? Because it's funny how everyone likes to say Melo was selfish, which I do agree to an extent is true, but when you look at what Chris Paul did this offseason, not even willing to shave $5 million off of his contract, that's selfish as well. And it was very dumb on the Houston Rockets' part to just oblige to his offers, because I understand that you believe that that roster was good enough to potentially beat the Golden State Warriors with him healthy, but why not try to keep every single player on that roster so you can go back at the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs? And sure, over the past few games, they've been getting it together, and Harden has definitely been in his bag these past few games and basically throughout this season, but they have definitely not been the team that we can look at and say, hey, they could beat the Golden State Warriors, they can contend. No, because they can't, because they fought the Golden State Warriors with firepower from the three-point line, and they had players that can switch off of pick and rolls and can play defense and can space the floor. They did everything right last season in the playoffs versus that team until Chris Paul went down. So why not try to keep that team that you had before Chris Paul went down? Well, I guess they just could not do that, and now they're in the predicament that they're in, and sure, they will make the playoffs. I have no doubt in my mind that the Rockets will make the playoffs as a potential top 4 team in the Western Conference seeding wise. But this contention with the Golden State Warriors fantasy that they had going into this season, it's definitely dead. And there are numerous teams in the West that they got to look out for now, because the Nuggets, they have arrived. The Lakers have gotten it together. You also have other teams in the Western Conference that could potentially be a threat. The Mavericks look really nice right now. Who knows what the Jazz will do going forward this season? Sure, they have been a little sus. The Thunder have been destroying it this season. Shout out to Paul George and those boys. Yes, I said Paul George and those boys because Russ, he still has some work to do on his side of the ball. But you guys, let me know in the comment section what y'all thought about this video. Give it a like down below. Also, you guys subscribe to the second channel and let me know in the comment section what y'all think about the Rockets this season. If I'm overreacting, if they will get it together and eventually compete with the Warriors. Y'all let me know in the comment section. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Y'all have a great day. I'm out. Peace.